was trying to give warning. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to this council committee meeting for the city of Gallatin. It is November 14th, 2023. The time is 6 p.m. and we're going to call the meeting to order. We're going to begin this work session a little different than we usually do because this evening we have a very special presentation from Pack 425, the Arrow of Light Pack, and they are from First Presbyterian Church, and they are working on some of their badges, and they're with us tonight to share something very special. I will turn it over to you, sir.
Color guard, attention. Audience, please rise. Color guard, forward, march. Color guard, halt. Color guard, pulse the colors. Scout salute. Those not in uniform, please put your right hand over your heart. Pledge allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
2. Scout signs. Scout law. A scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. Scout oath. On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country, to obey the Scout law, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. 2. Color guard, return to your ranks. Audience, please be seated.
Well, I think that deserves a round of applause. Gentlemen, very, very well done. I look forward to seeing you progress in your scouting careers, and I hope that I get to be around when you become Eagle Scouts. No challenge, yeah. Hey, you guys have a great night. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Huh? Put what up here? I was going to put it between the podium and Miss Kittrell, if we could, if you don't mind doing that. Is that better? Can y'all live with that over on that end?
That's much better.
Yeah, thanks.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so very much. Thank y'all for being here. All right, with that, we will call the roll.
Vice Mayor Love.
Here.
Councilman Carter.
Present.
Councilman Fan.
Here.
Councilman Fennell.
Here.
Councilwoman George.
Here.
Councilman Hayes.
Present.
And Councilman Javance.
Present.
There we have a quorum.
Thank you all for being here. There are no minutes this evening for your consideration, so we'll move on to public recognition. There is one period of public recognition during a council work session. There is not one at the end, so whether you have an item that you would like to speak to that is on the agenda or not on the agenda, now is the time that you may do that. You will have 5 minutes to speak, and we ask that you give us your name and address. And with that, public recognition is now open. Not a single person is leaping to their feet to speak. So with that, I'm going to declare public recognition closed and move on now to mayor's comments. I do have several things to reflect upon and tell you about that are upcoming because it is that time of the year. Want to start off by saying there were some great events that happened this past weekend. Certainly the American Legion and their Veterans Day Parade. It was lovely as always. I think the crowd out watching the parade was the best ever. And if you ever want to be inspired, just to see the love shown to the veterans who were participating in the parade was really something. To see all the little kids along the way waving their flags and people in their patriotic clothes and saying, and people with signs saying thank you. It was just really fantastic. And so I appreciate them continuing to do that parade. And more than that, I appreciate all the people really sharing heartfelt thanks to our veterans because we certainly do recognize their service. Also this weekend was the Gallatin Chambers Tinsel and Treasures Holiday Open House. This year it was a 3-day event. And they have been doing that for decades. It was begun actually by Perkins Drug Store probably close to 50 years ago, and it has continued every single year. And so this year they had probably a record number of participants, and just judging from the traffic around some of the shops, I'd say some of a record number of shoppers. I think everybody had good experiences and enjoyed getting a little jump start on the holiday spirit because the businesses went to a lot of work to make a great experience for their shoppers. The chamber went to a lot of work to organize it, and so I recognize them and thank them for that. Also want to recognize the Dyers, and you may not know who the Dyers are, but let me tell you who they are. They're Town Square Comics and Gifts. I'm probably not saying the name of the shop right, but they're on the square. They sell comic books and records. They're fabulous. For the 3rd year now, they had a local Comic Con here in Gallatin. Not something that I was familiar with until they began this. The last 2 years, it has been with the cast of Leave It to Beaver. This year, it was with the cast of Dukes of Hazzard. They actually moved it to the Gallatin Civic Center. They were full of praise for the Civic Center and the staff and just the venue for the event that they had. I was able to stop by and see it, and there was a great crowd. They estimate that they had 3,500 people over the course of 2 days, and most of those were from out of town. So my thanks and admiration for them because they put not just a lot of money into it, but a tremendous amount of time and energy and effort, and they round up their own volunteers, and they make this happen for people bringing them to Gallatin. I mean, they had hotels booked all over the place for the people that were participating in the Comic-Con, people that were visiting it, and got to meet the cast of Dukes of Hazzard. I think everyone that was still living was there, including Bo and Luke Duke and Daisy.
Uncle Jesse?
So that was a lot of fun. Also want to mention that this weekend was the Battle of the Badges, and our Gallatin Fire Department did emerge victorious. They said it was hard fought. I think they beat the Sheriff's Department in the final game by 1 point. And so he says that they're going to have to tread lightly when they see him around town for a little while, but they are the victors, and that's a great effort they do each year to raise money for a good cause, and we appreciate our departments participating in it, and we're certainly excited when we can claim the win. So congratulations to Gallatin Fire Department. Several events coming up, starting with the American Red Cross Blood Drive happening on Thursday of this week. That's 11 to 4. Certainly, you know, this time of year, great need for blood donations. I would encourage you, if you are able, to consider giving blood. This weekend, another big event at the Gallatin Civic Center. It's the Christmas Harvest Craft Show. Happens each year. Talk about packed. Again, bringing people to our city and entertaining our locals and selling lots of stuff. Next week, believe it or not, is Thanksgiving. The city will be closed Thursday and Friday for the most part. Garbage pickup will be adjusted, so remember to check your schedule on that. Next Saturday is Small Business Saturday. You know, it follows Black Friday when everybody goes and buys everything in the big box stores. We ask that on that Saturday, you commit your Christmas shopping to our smaller local shops. Coming up on the 30th of this month is Tuba Christmas at First Baptist Church. Again, an annual event. I'd say it's been going probably 12 years at this point. That's a guess. Always a full house, and if you've never experienced it, it's something different for sure. I would encourage you to check that out. That happens at 7 p.m. at First Baptist, and First Baptist is always a great partner to accommodate the crowd for that event, and certainly want to thank our local players and Tennessee Tech, who always participates. We're going to be lighting the Christmas tree on the 1st this year of December. That's going to be at 5 p.m. We're going to have a very, very special guest. We're going to have a couple of schools performing as they do each year, and then Chapel Hart is going to come perform for us. They will also be doing a concert that night at the Palace Theater. They really do love Gallatin, and we're so excited that they're going to participate with us in that special event. Remind this body that The City of Gallatin Employee Christmas Luncheon is on the 5th of December. And then on the 9th of December is the Christmas Parade. And if you haven't noticed, our Public Works Department is very busy starting to put up Christmas decorations. And somebody said today, isn't it early? And then somebody else said, well, Thanksgiving's next week. And we're like, oh my, you're right. So they're working on that. Do want to mention United Way. I mentioned it last week, but I'll mention it again. It's a drop-off point for food, benefiting those who need food during this difficult time of the year for so many. So you can drop off here, and we're continuing our campaign with our employees for United Way giving, and would certainly welcome the council to contribute as well if you so desire. Anybody else think of anything I did not mention before we move on? Okay, see no.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'm missing eating birthday cake with my little nephew, so I just want to say happy birthday to my little nephew, 6. He's turned 1 today.
Oh, he must be watching his famous uncle on the city council meeting.
I hope he is.
Happy birthday. All right, thank you, Councilman Carter. With that, we'll move on to the regular agenda, and the first item is ordinance 02311-55, waiving fees on behalf of Habitat for Humanity. Mr. Kellogg.
Thank you, Mayor Brown. This is an ordinance waiving tap fees for Habitat for 112 Padford Place. If the body is willing, I'd like to consider amending this to include the remaining 6 lots in Padford Place that Habitat's developing. That way I don't have to come back 6 more times with ordinances for each lot.
Second.
We'll move them on to council, yeah. And so we will amend the ordinance for next week so that you can vote on it in that way, or the resolution. December 5th. Oh, sorry, Susan corrected me, December 5th. We're not meeting next week. So we'll amend the ordinance for December 5th and have all the addresses on there. And I know Habitat and Mr. Kellogg will appreciate that, so. Motion and second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
Thank you.
That's passed unanimously. Item 2 is Resolution R2305-42, adopting the Sumner County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan. Chief Beeman.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council. The purpose of this agenda item is to adopt the Sumner County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan. This is a document required that we have to adopt every 5 years. The last time we did this was in we started the plan in 2017 for adoption. This was a multifaceted process that included all the communities in Sumner County, including the Sumner County government and the public. It identifies several different hazards, and in that program, through consensus vote, that we determine the level and the severity of the hazards that the county could face and the community could face from drought, earthquake, flooding, severe weather, and tornado. We also, in the plan, identified possible things to do to mitigate potential disasters in the future in each community. As you note in the plan, though, we will not commit the city or the county or any of the participating partners to that, but it was ideas and things that we shared and discussed in the meeting that they wanted to put in the plan as for items that we could potentially consider in the future. I'm here to answer any questions about this. My apologies. I originally brought this to council in May with a draft plan, and the plan was to provide this body the final document. Unfortunately, we just received that about 2 weeks ago. We're a little behind schedule with this. We were required to have this adopted prior to July 1 of 2023.
But it was delayed by the state,
It wasn't delayed
not
by
locals.
local. That's correct, ma'am. It was delayed by state personnel or at TEMA.
They can't be too mad at us about it.
No, I don't think so. I think they gave everybody grace, and once we got the document out, all they've asked was if we could get it to our local legislative bodies for have them to adopt it.
Motion to send it on.
Motion by Councilman Hayes. Second by Vice Mayor Love. Any questions, any discussion? Mr. Javance.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a comment, a quick one, after I'm going to go on more details, but they still have Chief Miller as EMS chief in Sumner on the document?
Ken Widener, yes, sir, he participated in the development of the plan.
No, they still have Chief Miller as chief of the EMS Sumner?
Now, when we were working on this, he probably was still chief of EMS before he departed. So they did document who participated when and what they did do.
It's a good document, lot of things. It's a good Bible, I think. The only stuff I want to know with that body is that, like Chief said, there's some things we can do and were recommended. So is that something we're going to do money permitted, of course, or that's just going to be a document. We're going to get there for 5 years and look again in 5 years, because there is something on the safety side we should probably look at and plan of doing in the next 5 years.
It's something that our department heads determine our priority and worth pursuing, particularly if there's a grant available. Certainly, we will do it. I don't know how the timing will present itself.
Yes, ma'am, and that's what the key of this document is. It opens up the path to grant money to handle some of the hazards and stuff that's been identified in this document. This is step one for that. And again, it doesn't commit the city. Our priorities might change and other things might come into play that today that we're not aware of. So we're not going to be held to following that in any specific order. However, though, as I said, it's going to open up that funding pathway to grant monies if we do want to pursue these.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor of sending it forward to council, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. It is unanimously moved forward. Item number 3 is ordinance 02311-56, zoning a 5.18 acre parcel to the R6 PRD High Density Residential Planned Residential Development District with a preliminary master development plan for MI Homes, Bledsoe Springs, located north of Hartsville Pike and east of Airport Road, authorizing the revision to be indicated on the official zoning atlas, repealing conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. Mr. McCord. Oh, thank you. I didn't think about that.
Council, this next item is a request for rezoning, or is actually to establish zoning on a parcel that was recently annexed into the city. This is called the MI Homes Bledsoe Springs rezoning. It comes with a preliminary master development plan. The applicant is requesting to zone the property R6 PRD and with a preliminary master development plan for, again, MI Homes Bledsoe Springs. It'll be a horizontal property regime condominium project with 51 lots located north of Hartsville Pike and east of Airport Road, immediately behind the new convenience store that opened up here recently at that intersection. It is shown on the screen. It's an unusual shaped parcel, about 5.19 acres, and is adjacent to properties that are located, make sure I get this on, located in the, I got adjusted. Okay, well, this cursor's not working. Okay, let's see if I can back it up here. Sorry about that. Okay, so the properties to the north and west, immediately northwest, is part of industrially zoned properties, Gallatin Industrial Center, and just to the immediately to the northeast is properties that there we go, got it working, is part of the Bledsoe Springs single-family subdivision property that was recently approved a couple of years ago in the city. And that property is also located in the city. And immediately to the south are some properties on that are zoned rural residential, and they remain in the county. And as I mentioned, to the west is the new convenience store, and that is OR zoning. The applicant, again, is asking for R6 zoning with PRD for 51-unit townhome development. This area is designated as general urban on the community character area, and these are some samples from the comp plan that indicate the type of housing that is considered appropriate in the general urban area. And there's also, of course, in general urban area, more intensive development that's permitted. This is not representative of the applicant's request. But those are types of things that you would expect to see in a generalized urban area. Their focus is more effort on the residential or lower density residential aspects or medium density residential aspects that are also permitted in that community character area. As I mentioned, the property is 5.19 acres outlined in roughly the dotted lines here that are shown. And it's got some contours to it, and it's an unusual shape. And the far southwest portion is actually an access easement that's being used by the convenience store and also be used for development of this site. The applicant wants to establish the 51 condominium horizontal property regime lots in this manner that you see on your screen. Now, this went to the Planning Commission, and there was some discussion about how some of the units could be modified or shifted to accommodate the greenway that is proposed along the northwest corridor in the old railroad bed alignment. And so the greenway was included in the master plan for Bledsoe Springs, and it runs roughly parallel to this property line on the west property line of Bledsoe Springs. And that extends further southward through the northwest portion of this property and then would terminate at the convenience store parcel or next to the convenience store parcel. The plan that was reviewed by the Planning Commission showed obviously some encroachments into that alignment. So you can see the contour lines here where the greenway would be built in the railroad bed. And so there were some conflicts there. And I'll get into that and some issues that I've identified in the staff report that need to be addressed or considered by the council as well. So the 51 units in here, they're not on lots necessarily. They're like pads, and the condominium pads would be owned by whoever purchases these units. And the rest of the properties, including the streets within there, would be private drives. There would also be some accessory parking, 9 accessory parking spaces. There's some there. They show a dog park here, and then there was a minor change that was made to that to better accommodate some of the recommendations of the Planning Commission. This plan shows the buffer yards that would be provided, and for the most part, they're providing code-required buffer yards, with the exception that they are wanting a buffer yard along the west side of the Bledsoe Springs, future Bledsoe Springs subdivision, so they're not requesting that buffer yard be provided there because this is part of the same product and the same developer as Bledsoe Springs. So it'd be a 0-foot buffer, although that would be roughly 15 feet in width between the back of those lots and the east side of this project. The other exception is on the south portion of the properties where they would be providing a type 30 buffer as opposed to the 30-foot buffer. It'd be a type 20 or 20-foot wide buffer with a type 30 plantings in there. Now, again, these are basically single-family houses on very large or fairly large parcels of land there that are in the county, zone rural residential. The concern I have, and let me advance this to the plans that were revised based on the conditions. What they did, and it's kind of hard to tell, particularly at this scale, is that they removed some of the 3 of the units located here and kept units along the north side. And that's the area where the conflict is with the alignment of the trail. So what they've done is they've shifted slightly these units on the north end over to the east, removed them from here, and then placed them in other locations. So they've tried to create continuity for a straight line in the old railroad bed for the alignment of the Greenway Trail. That alignment needs to be 20 feet in width to accommodate the improved trail plus maintenance and clear zones on either side of that trail. My concern, however, is that this area right there where the triangle comes together in the Bledsoe Springs single-family development is where the trail ends, and there's not really enough room to accommodate a bend in the trail to return it to its alignment in the old railroad bed there. So it scales to about 14 feet, 15 feet, and that's just not sufficient area to accommodate the 20-foot wide easement that's needed. So one thing that they've considered they did is move the dog park from the northeast portion of the property over to the west portion of the property that actually backs up to where the alignment of the trail will be. And by doing that, this area is now opened, available for, they could move a unit or maybe 2 units over there to accommodate accommodate the trail with the 20-foot easement without losing the number of units. So that's something I went into and elaborated in the report, and although that was not recommended by the Planning Commission. So I wanted to point out that difference. It would be quite difficult to accommodate a through and connected trail in the design that they're showing here. Plus, it would mean that someone would effectively have a trail, substandard trail width in a short period or short distance immediately out the back door of one or more of those units. So that's going to be very unusual to accommodate that once that project comes along. Other than that, the Planning Commission did review this plan for other consistencies and those exceptions that I've mentioned. Drainage would be back through the easterly portion and northerly portion of the site, and that would be addressed at the final master development plan stage. So this property drains to the north through into the Bledsoe Springs master plan, the adjacent plan. They would have, as I mentioned, private roads, and access to the private road behind the convenience store would be via a gate, so it would only be gate controlled, and the residents would have access to and from that, and it would be publicly accessible through the future street that would be built in Bledsoe Springs subdivision. The other benefit of the buffer zones and the trail here is this continues, if it's left basically undisturbed other than clearing for the trail, it will leave that as a thick buffer yard between this residential development and the industrial properties to the northwest. With that, the Planning Commission did recommend approval. I would suggest that you maybe ask the applicant to maybe get up here and discuss their take on the alignment of the trail and their ability to achieve that. Otherwise, I don't think it would happen. So, or the likelihood of it happening is quite remote in that alignment. So the Planning Commission did recommend approval of this plan and asking for your consideration.
Motion by Councilman Hayes.
Second.
Second by Councilman Carter. Opening the floor for discussion. Oops, sorry, I turned my microphone out. Had a motion by Councilman Hayes, a second by Councilman Carter. Opening the floor for discussion. Councilman Hayes, you're recognized.
Yeah. You're talking about the trail. Is it something that we need to work with them on before we do? I mean, I think we need to before we go to final vote. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, if you're inclined to ensure that the alignment of the trail is
Yeah.
preserved in its, as in the railroad bed as it is now, it needs to be at least 20 feet wide with the easement. And to accommodate that, it's not, we're not asking them to surrender a unit or two, although they certainly could, but to consider locating those units elsewhere to preserve the integrity.
I think
of the
that's what we
alignment.
need to do. Is anybody here from the?
Let me just elaborate a little bit on it, because I certainly want to, and Councilwoman George may corroborate, I hope, with me on this. I don't think Mr. McCord's opinions were communicated as strongly as they are this evening at the Planning Commission. We discussed it briefly, but we didn't really carry through with asking them to do anything differently. I think if we'd had that perspective, we might have. But I think at this point, the proper ask would be of the developers to see if they could potentially shift as you suggested. But, you know, if the representative wants to address that. I think, Ms. Love, did you want to be addressed?
Yes, I have fought for the people off of Hartsville Pike every time these developments come up because there is no need to have more cars put out on Hartsville Pike. I've explained that over and over, and you all have heard from people who came and spoke over and over about the traffic and the wrecks. We've heard about those from the police department or the sheriff's department, all the wrecks there. I don't like that. I don't like adding more traffic there. I don't like that it's adjacent to single-family housing. I don't like that one of the exits will go through single-family housing neighborhood.
That's their development, just to make sure you understand that. It's all one development.
Bledsoe Springs, yes, but it's single-family homes. So if I lived in a single-family home neighborhood, I wouldn't want 51 townhouse families just traveling through there. And I don't think most people would. I also don't like that there's not much green space, just a dog park. But the traffic is my main concern, and it always has been.
Well, I think, you know, my concern with traffic is that the density belongs in the cities, as I've said, because if we don't allow it in the cities, it's going to sprawl out further, and then that just really exacerbates our traffic.
This is sprawling because we annexed it and made it sprawl.
It's right on Airport Road, right at
It's right
main
next
artery.
to county land, too.
It's within our city limits. I mean, they'll just go out in the county further, and that's more cars traveling further distance, which, you know, the data shows you makes the traffic worse. And so,
Can we see if Bill can get with them or whatever to see?
yeah, it is a representative here, Mr. McCord, and did you want to speak to it? No,
Yes,
if
they
you don't
have a
wish to, that's
representative.
fine as well.
They do have a representative here.
Okay. If he can come forward, that would be great, Mr. Javons.
Thank you, Mayor. A few things. We're talking about 51 townhomes there, but when I read the first sheet, the PMDP talk about 48. So, and if I count on the paper I have in the packet, that shows 48 lots. So it's 48 or 51? That's my first question.
It's 51. Oh, okay, I've been told they reduced it to 48, so
Okay.
that was a resubmittal that came in, what, this week then, after the report went out? Okay.
So I've read a lot of these PMDPs and report from you guys, and that the first time I see the word staff opposes in one of them. Generally, I see recommend, doesn't see comment, but few times I see staff opposes. So that's a strong word. Another thing in there, I said the proposed project will require off-site water and sanitary sewer improvements. That's the only phrase in there. So my question is, what are we talking about? How big that work's going to be, and who's going to pay for it?
The developer always pays for the new infrastructure,
All right.
accommodate. So water and sewer lines, the roads, they're all be the responsibility of the developer.
All right. Another thing there, and that would be a stop right there about the 35% open space. All right. It's on a report. The plan indicates that they meet the 35% recreation area open space requirement for R6 PRD. However, the open space is not in common area tract, which is required as a condition of approval. Open space also includes private street, parking area. So that's not open space. That doesn't follow the definition of open space in our code. I talked about that before. It's actually common space, and the definition is that it's common space enjoyable by everyone in the development. So if I was living there, the little piece of road was gonna go to my parking, it's my parking. It's not enjoyable to everybody. So for me, that would be a stop right there. That doesn't meet the requirement of the PRD R6. I agree, there is this gate-controlled access. So you just say that's going to be private road, but that's going to be public access on one side and lock on the other side. So I have an issue on that gate access. We talk about that a lot. Few times I came in front of the council and I got turned down. And that's an access on the parking lot of a convenience store. That's kind of sounds pretty weird to me. Parking calculation, again, staff said it's not enough, that's gonna cause issues. So I get called in my district, Liberty Creek development, it's kind of like that. There is no parking or limited parking space and people have issues with it. And we just, again, voted to open parking the street. And I was looking at the roadway that showed 24 feet. Nick, I'm gonna put you on the spot right there. The last time we talked about width on your email, you said that the minimum per Gallatin code and fire should be 28 feet. So if we have 24 feet, that doesn't meet the code, our width code. To go back to the traffic study, it's great. There is one there, lot of staff, but it's dated from 2020. A lot of things changed since, it's made using the 2010 Highway Capacity Manual, the 5th edition. We're already at the 7th edition. So I think probably things changed since 2010 for 2023. That's just a few things I caught, but I think it's bad. There is no open space. So, and I agree with Councilman Love. If I was living on a single family, I would not want that to come around. So I will be voting no for it.
Okay, if we want to hear from the representative, please.
Yeah, Zach Baker with Greenwood Design. I guess I'll just start with the encroachment on the trail. I looked this afternoon at the layout and redesigning this so that we are not encroaching that. So that should be, I can get that before you for the next meeting. As far as the open space, I can provide a separate attachment that shows the breakdown of areas in open space and then not open space. But other than that, if you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions from this body?
I've got one. The conversation I had with a member of the Planning Commission was that the trail was first proposed, or the Planning Commission is wanting to run the trail through the property, but now the way that y'all run it, it come back to me, and I think Andy said that they was willing to lose that unit to make sure that trail would be 20 foot.
That's right. We're
what he's
looking
talking
at
about.
not necessarily losing it right now, but that is an option. I'm looking at sort of shifting everything over and possibly relocating that unit.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of moving it forward to council, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Okay, it passes 5-2. Thank you so much. We
Thank
will
y'all.
see you at the council meeting, and we will bring that back with any improvements that they have. Item number 4 is Resolution R2311-91, adopting a plan of services for the annexation of a portion of a parcel totaling 5.59 acres located north and south of Peach Valley Road and west of Highway 109, and providing for an effective date. Mr. McCord.
This next item is actually 4 and 5 together, are going to be presented together. And this involves the same properties. We've had discussion on this in the past pertaining to a request to submit a petition for annexation. So now we're moving to the next stage, which is actual consideration of the resolution to adopt the plan of service and the annexation. This involves 5.59, excuse me, 5.59 acres of a portion of a parcel located adjacent to the city in the south central portion of the city on either side of Peach Valley Road, which extends east-west, west of Highway 109, and the water plant is just to the south and adjacent to the property. There is a drive that separates the water plant from the southerly portion of the property south of Peach Valley Road, and the northerly portion of it is north of Peach Valley Road. Most of it, or much of it, was used for quarrying materials to build the new bridge over the Cumberland River. So the applicant is requesting annexation of the property. We have a plan of service. He has not indicated what might be built on the property or how it would be zoned, and we would address that after annexation. The applicant also requests that because of the lengthy process that occurs with our annexation, that the public hearing and the reading of the resolutions occur at the same meeting, which would be on December the 5th. So we don't have but one more meeting this year, one formal meeting this year, and he's asking that those be handled on the same meeting date. The Planning Commission reviewed this request and recommended approval, and you have the resolutions included in your agenda package as well.
Motion to send it on to council.
Second. Motion by Councilman Hayes, second by Councilwoman George. Are there any questions on this? Let me ask, do you want to say motion to send it on allowing for the concurrent hearing and vote?
That is legal to do, correct?
There's nothing illegal about it.
Okay,
There's
yes.
no requirement. It's outside of our normal procedures, and that's why we ask council to approve that.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Motion, and Ms. George, you agree with that as your second? Yes. Okay, very good. Motion and second, opening the floor for questions. Anyone? Mr. Javance?
Yeah, I disagree with that. It's outside of normal procedure, so we should have public hearing and time to think about what people say. We should not have to vote on this right on the same meeting of public hearing. I don't think it's fair for anybody. So I disagree with that.
Anyone else with any questions or comments?
Property is surrounded by the city already, right?
Pretty much, yeah. It's right there on 109, yeah.
Mostly, this property is in the city, and all of this property around here is in the city. What's not in the city is the balance of his parcel, which is where I'm showing on the cursor, back to the west and the wooded area down to the river. The properties that are on Peach Valley Court, this little dead-end street here, those are in the city, and Kirkpatrick Estates are in the city. This house here is not in the city, and over to Woods Ferry Road, which is this alignment here, it's not in the city. So there's all of this is really part of a larger type of enclave, but this is basically, it's all contiguous to the city and would be reducing the size of an enclave. One thing that's not being annexed in here by this request is the right-of-way Peach Valley Road that's between the two parcels, or the two portions of the parcel.
Here for that road, so that's fine.
I'm sorry.
So we maintain that road, I think, right?
Yes, we do. Yes.
Anything else? Okay, all in favor of moving forward Resolution R2311-91, please say aye. Opposed, please say no.
No.
It moves forward 6-1. Item number 5 is Resolution R2311-92, annexing a portion of a parcel totaling 5.59 acres located south and north of Peach Valley Road and west of Highway 109 into the city of Gallatin, authorizing the annexed property to be indicated on the official zoning atlas, assigning the annexed area to a council district, repealing conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Motion to send it on.
Oh, so we're fine with them together? Okay, all right. Then with y'all's permission, I will record it as 6-1 to move forward. Item number 6 is Resolution R2311-93, approving updated job descriptions for Police Sergeant and Lieutenant. Courtney Russell, HR Director, Housekeeping.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Good evening, council. Yes, in October, we did update the job descriptions with the approved salary tables that we presented then. Unfortunately, during that time, I didn't realize there was a missing, I missed 2 references to the Sergeant 2 job title, which was no longer valid. So it's really just housekeeping. There were one line.
Sergeant 1 and 2 to Sergeant.
Correct.
Motion to move to council.
Motion to move forward, who was that? Who was that? You,
Second.
Councilman Juvent, second by Councilman Hayes. Any questions? Okay, Resolution R2311-93, to move on to council, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Passes unanimously. Item 7 is Resolution R2311-95, amending the City of Gallatin Personnel Rules and Regulations, Rule 12, Section 12-6, retirement.
Thank you again, Mayor. This one, with our benefit renewal for 10/1/23, we did, you did approve the offering of retiree coverage through Blue Cross and Blue Shield. In order to actually offer that to our retirees, Blue Cross required that we do put some eligibility requirements in our documentation. That added the 3rd paragraph to our retirement policy and essentially says that those who retire will need to have been covered for at least 12 months prior to retirement in order to continue up to Medicare age. They have a one-time opt-in chance at retirement, and otherwise they would be eligible for COBRA if they are covered at the time of retirement, but not for at least 12 months prior.
Motion to send it on.
Second.
Motion by Vice Mayor Love, second by Councilman Hayes. Any questions, any discussion?
Thank you, Mayor. Just one, there's a paragraph about police officer and fire department personnel who retired or are separated from service due to an injury. You know that paragraph?
That paragraph has actually been in our retirement policy.
Yeah. They say they, shown in addition to the benefits provided, be afforded the same level of health insurance. Can you?
At the time of separation from service, right?
Yeah, so that means if they get injured and can't work, what our coverage as a city? What are we doing for? I mean, they keep the same coverage, or they fall in that category as retired and they can opt and pay full for the coverage.
So if they are not, they're not necessarily retiring at that point. At that point, if they are injured in service and unable to continue performing the duties according to the policy, it says that they would continue to be covered under our health plan.
Okay.
That wasn't changed at all in.
No, I just wanted to make sure.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Anyone else? Okay, this is Resolution R2311-95. All in favor of moving forward to council, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Passes unanimously. Item 8 is Resolution R2311-96, amending the City of Gallatin Personnel Rules and Regulations, Rule 16, Section 16-3 for sick leave. Ms. Russell?
Very much. At this point, currently, we administer our sick leave pool via a Board of Trustees, which is made up of 5 members of the sick leave pool. So 5 employees of the city who are participants in the sick leave pool are able to approve or deny one's request to withdraw sick leave from the sick leave pool. Based on HIPAA regulations and other federal requirements, the Personnel Department or the Human Resources Department is unable to provide protected health information to other employees of the city. And so essentially, the Board of Trustees and their ability to make a determination on whether someone is medically necessitated to take that leave becomes defunct. What's been proposed here is to essentially default to our eligibility requirements. The Personnel or Human Resources Office would determine whether someone meets eligibility requirements, and then if they did, they'd be approved. If for some reason they were denied, they do have the appeal rights to go to the mayor and appeal in that process. Or the Human Resources Office additionally has more capability to request medical documentation than essentially just other employees who are part of the pool. So short version is we would remove the Board of Trustees and leave it up to what's already written as the eligibility requirements.
All the guidance.
Correct.
Motion to move it to council.
By Councilwoman George. Second by Councilman Carter. Any questions? Okay, all in favor of moving forward resolution? Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. I think what was before was great. I like the idea. I don't like to give power, it's not really power, but decision-making on only one person. I think because that happened to me, I had to sign a paper accepting to release information, and that was per IPA guidance, so I think that's probably an option. And because what the difference between someone on the board of trustee and, no offense, Mayor Brown, that's the same thing to me. That's what give Mayor Brown, who's going to be the appeal, the right to access health record to employees.
So technically, it doesn't give Mayor Brown the carte blanche access to their health information. What it is it allows the employee to provide as much health information as they would like to Mayor Brown.
So they can do that to the Board of Trustees too.
They could. Most of them choose not to because it's their fellow employees.
This is also, our current policy does not allow for an appeal process. So we really haven't had any issues. I mean, pretty much they get improved based on the guidance that's written. I can't even foresee, but we just kind of put that in there as a safeguard if there was someone who disagreed with the decision.
Correct.
Certainly, I feel certain the mayor would consult with legal,
Right.
whomever the mayor may be at that point.
I just, like I say, I don't like the idea of one person making a call because I can, and for you too, because you're going to approve someone, not approve somebody else, and they can say, hey, you like that person, you don't like that one. Where if there is a board of 5 people.
If I can interject, just the way it's happened in the past, this is done with the intention of protecting our employees. A lot of them don't want their fellow employees knowing their health issues. And so this is done with the intention of protecting them, and either you meet the guidelines or you don't. And so what would happen was the HR director would get all of the information. The HR director would give limited information to the employees and say, you need to approve this. And they would say, okay, approved. So it's not really serving a true purpose. And we also have a difficult time getting people to volunteer to be on that board because people don't want to do that. So I don't think that the employees are going to see this as giving authority to one person. That person really already has the authority and says, you must approve this, and they've never gone against what the HR director has recommended. We do have the added benefit here. Like I said, we've not had an issue, but if there were to be an issue, that we've put an appeal process in, that they don't the employees currently don't have.
And I would be very uncomfortable as an employee sharing personal information with several people whom I may or may not know that don't have, you know, the repercussions if they err that, I mean, they would, but certainly I think they feel very comfortable sharing information with our HR department because they're very used to working in a confidential environment. So I think that that's protecting our employees and keeping them where they feel like their information wouldn't potentially be shared, even if not intentionally, you know.
Thank you, Susan. Appreciate the input.
Anyone else? Okay, we have a motion and a second to move forward. This is Resolution R2311-96. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Moves along to council. Item 9 is Resolution R2311-97, amending the City of Gallatin Personnel Rules and Regulations, Rule 17, replacing Section 17-27, Personal Relationships, with Section 17-27, Abusive Conduct Prevention, and 17-28, Personal Relationships.
The city has had a standalone policy that's presented during orientation and, to my knowledge, has been approved by this body previously. However, it was not actually incorporated into our personnel rules and regulations. So in order to maintain consistency with keeping our policies in those rules and regulations, I just wanted to kind of add it in next to, in the same areas, our workplace violence and our, non-harassment policies and all of those things. So currently, the personal relationships policy is the last one in the rule and reg, and so I wanted to move that one, add the abusive conduct prevention policy that is already in place into that slot, and then move the personal relationships one down. There's no change to the personal relationships other than calling it 1728
There it
instead of
is.
1727.
Motion to move to council.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Jouvence, second by Councilman Carter. Any questions on that? All in favor of moving forward Resolution R2311-97 forward, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. It does pass on to council unanimously. Item 10 is Resolution R2311-98, amending the City of Gallatin Personnel Rules and Regulations, Rule 17, Section 17-20, employee use of city-owned vehicles.
So we have had we've had vehicles that are used by employees. We also have employees who use personal vehicles for city business, and/or there are some employees who are able to take home vehicles. We already had a city-owned vehicle policy in place. However, based on recommendations from the state comptroller, our insurance provider, as well as our legal department, we wanted to update that and make it more robust, including having that the vehicle shall be permanently conspicuously marked as property of the City of Gallatin. Operators will need to have a valid Tennessee driver's license and have periodic motor vehicle use, and then including the GPS that was recently approved through council, so noting that our vehicles can be outfitted with GPS. This was not a change, this was in the policy currently, is that it defines what is, who can take home and what's considered a long-term, so that's more than 30 days, and the criteria for those who should be provided with take-home vehicles, including an average call-out of off-duty hours of at least once a week, or if the vehicle is outfitted with specific emergency or work-related equipment that may be needed during off hours. And then department heads would be able to justify the assignment of those take-home vehicles, and ultimately the approval of the assignment is made by the mayor. There are a couple of pieces in here that I will need your input on, and we would need to update prior to actually taking it forward if you so choose. One of those being the radius of which we would allow take-home vehicles to be taken. So is it only for employees who live within city limits? Is it for employees who live in the county or within a specific mile radius of City Hall or their work location, things of that nature? It allows for the department heads to review their assignment of take-home vehicles and the mayor to review on a quarterly basis. Another criteria is frequent service calls that average, again, at least once a week during non-duty hours. The requirement to respond to emergencies during non-duty hours or the city-owned vehicle is necessary for proper emergency response. We do also need potentially an adjustment to better define what is an emergency. Then also the need to respond within a limited time frame where traveling to a city vehicle and to secure that vehicle might prevent us from meeting response time standards or other specialized equipments. There may be exceptional circumstances where that would allow for additional people to be approved for take-home vehicles, but it does not deem that anyone, by virtue of necessarily just their position alone, be automatically provided with a take-home vehicle. There would need to still be justification for it and approval by the mayor. If the mayor deems that by virtue of the responsibilities of their position, they could be approved. And the largest part of all of this is thanks to recommendations from our insurance company, which is essentially the employees agreed to abide by these rules while performing city business in a vehicle, whether it's of their personal use or the use of actual city vehicles in that business. So things like observing all local traffic regulations, maintaining safe speed, using hands-free devices, and only limited, but wearing seatbelts at all times, no smoking within the city vehicles. Only city employees would be authorized to actually operate the vehicle, not allowing family members or others to ride in the vehicle without express permission from supervisor. Under no circumstances being able to operate the vehicle while under the influence of alcohol or medication that could affect one's ability to operate that vehicle. Locking the vehicle when it's unattended. And then if there were something that were to happen, so whether it's property damage or an accident, the need to report that to both the supervisor and risk manager as soon as possible. The very last portion does say that any employee, no matter their classification, if they were to circumvent the spirit, purpose, or letter of these rules by act of commission or omission, would leave them subject to discipline up to including termination, depending on the circumstances.
Motion to send it on.
By Councilman Carter, second by Vice Mayor Love. Any questions, any discussion? We do need to establish the parameters that need to be within this. Some people say city, some people say county, some people say mile radius. It would be this body's decision how you want to do that. Councilman Javance?
Thank you, Mayor. I think we have, if that's the way we want to go, I'm okay with it, but we have two different class of vehicle in the city, and I think we need to put there that I basically think police and fire should be exempt of.
Exempt from what part of it?
From the take-home vehicle decision. I think.
Do you think if someone lives in Kentucky, they should be able to take their vehicle, drive their vehicle out of state? We lose all of our insurance protections that we have as a municipality when we drive vehicles out of state. And we do have we've had, not recently, but we've had some significant accidents, people that are traveling long distances in their take-home vehicles. So this is why the insurance company has made recommendations. Now, how far you want that radius to be, that's this body's decision. But I don't think we should just carte blanche say they're, everyone, they're exempt completely. I do understand if someone lives in Lebanon, and that's why I think a radius is better than just saying, city or county, because depending on where you live, you may live right across the county line, and they may be closer than somebody that lives in the county, way far away.
And my perspective is that there's a community benefit with police officers taking their cars home, certainly. I don't have an issue with that, but I think some other things need to be addressed within the city as far as vehicles that have equipment that are specific to responding to emergencies. And, the thing that we haven't monitored is just how often are they called out? And can you respond with a personal vehicle, or do you require a city vehicle to do that? And realize this is an effort to reduce liability and reduce expenses. Just to give you an idea, I did the math for the first time ever today. 55 miles, if somebody's going round trip 55 miles a day, working 50 weeks, 5 days a week, 50 hours, 50 weeks a year, that's 27,500 miles. I mean, how many of us put that many miles on our car in a year, and yet we're doing that just going to and from work? In some instances, that's certainly worth it, but not in all. Mr. Johnson?
Yeah, I'm going back to police and fire. I understand the out-of-state staff. If it's an issue, it's an issue. But I want to see police cars in the neighborhood because it's a deterrent.
Oh, I don't think
That's what I
anyone
just
is
said,
disagreeing with that at all. No one is
That's what
going
I
to
mean.
disagree with that.
We should have something separate for, because all is there is say emergency. What do we classify as an emergency? An officer
They have
driving home.
Those do have specialized equipment, so this is not at all intended to keep,
And it's also
it's not intended to keep police and fire from being, have take-home vehicles at all. That's not the intent of this.
No, I understand that, but the way it's written, that could open the door to that. I mean, if tomorrow we decide that,
That's why you guys are getting to decide the radius.
no, but it's a different, the radius, it's a different story. I'm talking about officers going home from work or going back to work and keeping their vehicle. The way it's written, if, may I'm wrong, because you have the final say on that, decide that tomorrow officers don't take their cars home because basically driving home, it's not an emergency, there's nothing we can do. Like I say, I want to see our police cars in the neighborhood. It's a deterrent. And same thing with fire. I don't see a fireman taking the fire truck home. You know, but on the emergency services, the decision should be made by the chief of police and the chief of fire of what they do with their vehicle. And same with marking.
I think there needs to be, always should be oversight. And I don't think we've ever
Well,
had.
and there's also, I mean, just think, say there's a fuel shortage and gas is $10 a gallon. I mean, that would have a serious impact on our taxpayers and our employees, and, you know, it may change how we do things. But anyway, yes, Mr. Fan.
No, we need to look at where if we hire somebody from Hendersonville for the city of Gallatin Police Department, are you saying you want them to drive to Hendersonville?
Well, they do. They do
do.
currently.
Yeah.
And there's benefit in that. I mean, you'll
I
see
see
Metro
Anderson
police
car.
cars in Gallatin.
I see Anderson car in my neighborhood.
We need to specify that.
That's what
That's
this
why we're
is-
talking about setting a radius or a city or a county or a state, whatever you desire that to be.
And we've also talked about how Gallatin cannot afford, I mean, the people can't afford to live here, so they are traveling. good
Right.
distance.
Yeah. I mean, most of our,
Yeah, Westmoreland and, you know. Portland.
and, you know, it's largely public safety taking vehicles home. And again, that makes sense. Utilities make sense. Some of the others, not so much, but.
Well, what's your thought on that then, as far as radius goes?
Chief Bandy gave me the 55-mile range because that's what Belle Meade does. We're not as expensive as Belle Meade, but for some of our employees, we may seem that way. But, yeah. Oh, you have a list of options? Did you send that to me too, and I didn't see that? So, I don't know. I don't really feel like, I mean, I feel like if you want to move this forward, it's something we could insert next week as you think about it and examine it. And I really would like to get some information, kind of specific to departments too. So.
And if you wanted to allow public safety to drive farther, I think we could do that, you know, if that's the issue.
Maybe that's some issues we need to come up with to look at on that resolution, you know, instead of.
I think the chiefs would have more input than anybody on that
Yeah.
because they deal with it every day.
I think we need more time on that.
Well, we have until December 5th,
Right.
so we could move forward, and we can certainly meet with Chief Bandy and Chief Beeman, and we met in department head meeting this morning, but there really wasn't a lot of discussion about this.
Ms. Macaulay, would you want to address any of the public entity partners' concerns and the pressure that we have been getting? Problem is, we've been getting pressure on this for a long time, and we've not taken any action. And,
I think she did that as far as the insurance.
well, yeah,
talking about.
but specifically, I thought she.
Well, we have a very, how do I say this? A very broad take-home policy and a very robust take-home policy. And I think we've been told we have one of the most lenient policies that they have. And they have asked that we tighten that up to a certain extent, and that they think that we can cut down on our claims. We need to do some defensive driving. There's some other things that we're going to put in place to try to help, but this also is also for fraud and abuse purposes. There are a lot of reasons all of these things are in here, but these have been recommended by PEP, and that was the impetus of this.
I'll say I'm glad to see that these recommendations have been made, and I'm glad that we're finally addressing the issue and doing something about it, because all the departments don't need take-home vehicles, period.
And some of the parameters that are in this policy were not in the prior one, and there were things that have just kind of come up along the way, and we felt like we needed to set some boundaries. Mr. Giovanni?
Definitely need to.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with you. I'm just talking about police and fire. I think we should have something different for them, that just including them on that broad stuff. But I do mention, and I want Susan input on that, family members in city vehicle with approval. What's your take on that? Because I don't like it.
It would be in an emergency, I think it specifically says in an emergency situation, i.e. someone gets called in the middle of the night and they have to drop their children at childcare.
Okay.
That would be the circumstance whereby they may have someone in their vehicle, not routinely.
Yes, I am. And honestly, that is something that we thought was already in our policy, and we found out, and it's fairly recently, that someone had a family member and they were going to be written up, and there was nothing in our policy that prohibited that. And so that's why that is in there. And certainly you should not be having family members in your car on a routine basis, but there may be an exigent circumstance that would require that. So we didn't want to say prohibit, absolutely not, but it needs to be an emergency type situation.
And something I quickly mentioned, I want to point it out again, is markings of vehicle. I understand city vehicle being marked for, park and all that stuff, but
This is something that the comptroller's recommended for fraud and abuse purposes.
yeah, but
That's something I think that they
the-
actually require, and I'm looking for our finance director, but that's something that the comptroller, that's not something that we or insurance is saying, that's something the comptroller says needs to happen. So we like to follow what the comptroller tells us. Now, if they're doing undercover operations, and that's written in here, certainly those don't have to be marked.
Because official vehicle, when it's police or staff, I know it's an official vehicle, but I think if it's mandatory by the country, I understand. If it's
unless it's
recommended.
for undercover purposes, anybody that's needs to have an undercover car for whatever purpose, they don't have to have that, and that's written into this policy.
And it doesn't specifically say that it needs to identify either the department or the
No.
person who's operating the vehicle, just that it
The city
identifies
vehicle.
as property of the city.
Dan?
The insurance company have a do and don't list.
That's in here.
A lot of that's in here, that's what we,
We need to look at that. We don't want to get in a situation where they don't pay.
Where it came from.
It's almost verbatim from the do and don't list, many of the pieces.
Anyone else?
Is our insurance on all of our vehicles, city vehicles, are they through one company?
Yes, all of our insurance is through one company.
Is this company, they just specifically do government-type
Yes,
insurance on
it's
vehicles?
public entity partners, and they only do cities, municipalities.
Compared rates. So. Okay, anyone else?
There are ways to look at putting police and fire on a different, have rules to apply just for police and fire, so we can make it clear.
You can put that in
policy.
here. That's not something that's recommended by our insurance company.
I mean, again, I just feel like, I think that we're all on board with saying that it looks different for them than it does for us because there's a community benefit. But then again, we may feel differently if gas were to go through the roof or some other circumstance. Say someone started hitting houses that had police cars in a crazy world. We may want to say, wait a second, let's not subject our houses to that. I don't know. I'm just saying, you don't know. And I think that, like I said, we're all on board with saying there's value in having police cars at houses, certainly right now.
I certainly think if you want to allow them to have a bigger radius, that's something that we can look at. I don't know what else you want to exempt them from. We don't want them smoking, drinking, any of
No,
these other things.
all that is fine. I just think that emergency vehicle should be on a different category than a working truck. I want to make sure what we have right now is part of the perks for officers to come work in a city. We already have issues of finding people. That's one of the perks. They have a take-home vehicle as part of the package to be a police officer. I want to make sure it's clear that that's part of the stuff we do here at the City of Gallatin. I just don't want to leave any ambiguity where, again, if the price of gas go to $10 a gallon, which is probably not going to happen, that's actually going the other way, it's back to that body and we decide what we do. I
certainly think that Ms. Russell and I can look at this policy and try to come up with some language that would satisfy that they get more consideration, or however you want to word that.
There are already two sections that actually kind of speak to that, but in a more general tone. One is letter B that says department heads shall submit to the mayor justification of assignment of take-home vehicles. It doesn't say you're automatically not. They can ask for an exception if there's a criteria that's not met. And then on that same page, number 6, under second criteria, says that the mayor deems it in the best interest of the city to assign a take-home vehicle to an employee by virtue of responsibility of their position. That could just essentially encompass public safety by virtue of that position. Could be that could be the
We could even add
qualifying
including but
criteria.
not limited to public safety.
Positions.
Something.
I want to clear the ambiguity.
Good save.
Okay, anyone else with anything?
Just have a question. Who's paying for the gas?
The city?
Even if somebody lives in
Yes.
Wilson? And they're driving
Point
home?
exactly.
Yes.
That is the point exactly.
Yes.
So there's a large expense associated with that.
That just doesn't seem,
Well, it wouldn't make sense for, it wouldn't be, it wouldn't be doable for, say, a police officer to put personal gas in them. It just is not doable, but yeah.
We've had, I know we've had, I don't think this is, I don't know where the farthest is now, but I know we've had some that have taken them very long distances in the past. I don't know that we have that currently.
We could limit the amount of fuel they could use if they live far out.
It would be more manageable to limit the mileage beyond which they could travel.
Are the city police right now in the fire, are they fueling from the city pump? Or
Yeah.
they don't have credit cards or anything?
Well, they do, some department heads do, but they also have fuel supply, so.
Again, I always look at the worst case scenario because of my background. And when I was in military on my Jeep, I was breaking my Jeep arm because if one day something bad happened and Chief Bandy need everybody on deck like that, he can have everybody on the car there as needed. So And it's a one-time. And that one time, if we don't have that, we're going to regret it. We're going to say we should have done better. So it's the way I think. Sorry.
There's a line that addresses that as well, but.
Okay, this is Resolution
primary criteria.
R2311-98. Anyone that hasn't spoken would like to speak? Okay, all in favor of moving forward, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. And we can address how we want to put parameters in it between now and then. Please reach out if you have any questions of me. Item 11 is Resolution R2311-99, awarding health and dependent care flexible spending arrangements administration contract for the city of Gallatin. Ms. Russell.
So we currently have our flexible spending account through Blue Cross and Blue Shield. It's a reimbursement account administered through Blue Cross and Blue Shield as part of a survey that was conducted through our department. There was quite a bit of interest in moving toward the ability to have debit cards. Blue Cross and Blue Shield works with 3 different providers, one of them being very local, Pinnacle, and in order for us to move to having debit card availability for our flexible spending account, we would need to have an agreement with them. The cost is essentially a net zero besides a $200 fee for plan documents and compliance services. However, that's essentially already in Blue Cross, but it wouldn't be branched out. Cost-wise, it's still $5 per enrollee, so there's the potential for the cost of our plan that we realize to go up if we had more people enroll in the plan, and there does seem to be quite a bit of interest in that, but it would allow them to administer both of our health flexible spending account as well as our dependent care flexible spending account, give the employees the opportunity to utilize a mobile app or an employee portal, gives a whole bunch of analytics for them to see their own spending, submit receipts for approval, and gives us as the employer some additional usage analytics capabilities to see essentially not by person, but an overall view of where people are kind of spending their flex money and the utilization of the benefit itself. So the hope is that while right now we have a very small group of people who are participating in a benefit that is available to everyone, that we could increase that usage by making it a little bit more convenient for people to use.
Motion to move to council.
Motion by Councilman Juvent, second by Councilman Carter. Any discussion?
A great program. Thanks for doing that.
Any discussion, anyone? Okay, this is Resolution R2311-99. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Moves on to council with unanimous support. Item 12 is Resolution R2311-90, authorizing the city of Gallatin, thank you, Ms. Russell, for spending the evening with us, authorizing the city of Gallatin to participate in the Public Entity Partners Property Conservation Matching Grant Program. Ms. Hy McCauley.
Yes, this is a grant from our insurance carrier, Public Entity Partners. It's a property conservation matching grant program. It's a 50% grant. This is for funds that have already been expended, and it's my understanding that this is going to be used for the IT department, and it's for up to $5,000 reimbursement. Just need permission to apply so we can get $5,000.
Motion by Councilman Fennell, second by Councilman Carter. Any questions, any discussion? Okay. All in favor of moving forward, Resolution R2311-90, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say no. Passes unanimously. That concludes the regular agenda, brings us to other business. A few weeks ago, Mr. Fenton had brought to you all a discussion of solar lights for the Nexus development. I expressed some concerns. It was actually supposed to be back on this workshop session. It did not get on there. So I'm bringing it up under other business unless you have objection. I don't think that it's like a public controversy, but I thought it was, rather than continue to hold you guys up, that we could go ahead and discuss it. I did meet with the company. We discussed in depth some of my concerns. I have a higher level of comfort than I did. Actually have some interest in solar lights for some of our parks and recreation solutions and learning more about them and the cost associated with them. So I say those things. I passed out an email that I received from the company that explains the component cost, because that was one of my fears. Remember, You'll recall that there's a 20-year agreement that the homeowner fee supports. And so after that 20 years, I was like, what's the solution? And the talk that we had was, well, at 20 years, we think it will be even more affordable. Certainly, they'll be able to replace. This is the cost now. It gives you some gauge as to what the cost might be in the future. I would guess the hardware would be more expensive and the technical components would be less expensive. So anyway, back up here to consider to tell Nexus whether we're going to put it on the next agenda to be voted upon or not.
I'll make a motion, we put it on the agenda to be voted on.
I do too. Second.
I mean, looking, yeah.
Motion to consider, okay, by Councilman Hayes, second by Councilwoman George. I do think it would be a neat thing to have in our community. It would be unique. I think I shared with you all that I do have a friend who has done a lot of these installations, like in the cloud forest in Costa Rica, and they've been very successful. Have long, have plenty of light for all the time that's needed. It doesn't actually require sunlight, which was what I learned before I spoke to your guy. But I thought that was really interesting. It just requires daylight and not as much as you think. And I do think technology will improve along the way, even within the 20-year span, because within that 20-year span, as they replace panels and lights, et cetera, it could actually improve. Mr. Javance?
Thank you, Mayor. I have no problem with it. I think police has no issue with it. They send us picture. They like it. I sent an email to Mark Kimball who had no issue with it of what he told me. The only staff, I want to make sure that we have something solid in place so we don't get the cost to the city after 20 years if something goes wrong. That's the only issue I have.
Well, that's the agreement, is that they would be responsible. But, my concern was what happens if 20 years comes and the homeowners are like, whoa, wait, what? We have to replace these. And so that has to be really clear to the homeowners. Is there anything you want to add, Mr. Gibbs, that I haven't touched upon?
No, ma'am, I think you've covered it very well.
Questions from anyone?
I'm excited.
Yay. I think it's pretty cool, too. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor of moving forward to council on December 5th, right? Please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Unanimously moving forward to council. Thank you all. Sorry you had to wait till the end of the meeting. And appreciate you being
Happy
here.
Thanksgiving. Thank you.
Go eat dinner. All right. I would ask if anybody else up here has any other business this evening before we
I
go.
have. Do we know when we're going to go paperless? Has that?
I actually, we had our evaluation with Ms. Davis in my office last week, and I said, the time is now.
Yeah.
So we need to do it. She's actually done some prototypes for me. They look great. As you know, planning is no issue. And so we're moving in that direction. Thank you for asking.
Is that next year or?
Probably will. First year would be a good time to start that, certainly.
So what is that going to look like again?
It's going to be an online agenda. You'll be able to use this monitor, which is great because it's a touch screen. Everything is tabbed. You just go through it. You have one screen where you can watch the agenda, the other screen where you can zoom in, zoom out. It's a lot more helpful than having just stuff printed on paper.
So much more efficient.
Yeah. Mr. Javant, you had something?
I just discovered that was a touch screen. That's great.
What?
I just discovered it was a touch screen. I didn't know about it. So, cool. First, I want to give a shout out to GPU because I had a gas leak today and yesterday or the day before, and I picked up the phone and 10 minutes later, I had the two vehicles arriving there, figured the gas leak was right and shut the gas, and so that took 10 minutes to have people show up, so I think that's
They're
fantastic.
pretty amazing.
That's fantastic. I have three things I would like to talk about. I would like to talk about the soccer field light. I'm going to bring it back. I know we had money on the capital budget, so I would like to put that to the next work session agenda to talk about implementing, spending that money, and I think there is a bunch of kids that's part of our community. It's a good sport, and they need the lights. So I would like to bring that to the next.
Okay, is that motion?
It's a motion.
We're still working through trying to figure out what the agreement is with the neighborhood as to whether or not those lights can be there by the agreement that was made years ago. David and I have been talking about priorities and investments and where he would like to see that amount of money that was left in the budget with no designated place go. I don't know. He does think soccer lights are priority. But we're also navigating another project that may take a lot more money. So we should have more information on that within, I'd say, a month or two. So anyway, I have a motion to put that on the next. Put soccer lights on the next work session. I won't be here for that.
I thought we were gonna talk about, I thought the soccer people were gonna give it to people before we did that.
Well, that was the ask last meeting, so.
Okay, so, and we haven't heard anything on that, so I'd rather wait and hear on that before we do that.
To me, it would make sense for Mr. Brown to put it on the agenda when he's ready.
You got the same email I got.
I got that a long time ago.
No, the email he sent last week saying he
What,
didn't.
y'all quit debating what now? I don't understand what you're talking about.
Email sent by the president of the soccer who said that he doesn't feel right, that should be his job to go to the neighbor and ask for permission.
Oh, I hadn't heard anything about that.
When it's a city staff, so.
I hadn't heard anything about that. You understand?
About what now?
He said that I guess he talked to the president of the soccer club that says he doesn't feel right about having those conversations with the neighbors.
I think he sent all y'all an email and a letter.
He sent an email to
council
everybody.
all y'all a letter, what they were sending. I don't know who got it or who didn't get it.
He sent to.
They have sent a letter to the neighbors.
Who would it have come from, do you know?
The soccer league, Shane Davis.
Shane Davis, Craig Hayes, Linda Love, Eileen George, Dave Brown.
Okay, that's not really not necessary. Okay, so,
Shane Davis.
what is your recommendation on how we should proceed, Mr. Brown?
Well, it's gonna come down to the soccer league and the neighbors is who, there's no written agreement. Susan and I have researched that a few years back, and they have researched it. There's no written agreement or whatever. There was never a written agreement. Everything that was agreed that was supposed to happen has happened, the fence and the buffer that we sold to them. And at the meetings, the only thing was said at that time, it wasn't gonna be no lights. So it's gonna be I guess a soccer league coming requesting and the neighbors saying, we don't want it.
I
So
think the neighbors are going to be against it. I thought that was the effort that y'all were making, was to get them on board for it.
I'm sorry?
I thought that was the effort, was to try and get the neighbors on board. My question was, do you think they will?
They are, they have sent them a letter explaining what they're doing, the service they're
asking.
giving to the kids, and I'm sorry that you didn't get it. I mean, I saw.
Well, no, I probably did. I just haven't seen
Okay.
it. Only get about
He
200 emails a
he
day.
sent the letter out to all the council and you of what they was sending to them. It's just telling them that what they're going, when they go use them, what is the benefit it is for, and all that. The soccer league was not comfortable.
No, they're not.
That's not what I've been hearing.
Well, they're working through that. I mean, that was our last update, last time this was brought up.
Houses over there, and when I lived over there, then the understanding of with all the neighbors, especially the ones that's been there a while, that there would be no lights there.
Okay, this is not the debate that we need to be having right now, particularly because it does have public interest. The question is whether or not to put it on the next work session, which would fall on the
28th, I believe.
28th of November.
What does David think about that?
Mr. Brown, yay or nay? You think we'd be ready by the 28th to have an intelligent discussion, have feedback on that? We also have not passed the parks plan yet.
I mean, it's got to go to a public hearing and stuff before we can do that. But, and it's a high priority on the park plan.
I understand, yeah.
Yeah, but as far as our department, it's just a decision of this council of whether you do it or not.
yay or nay on having that information back from those homeowners by that work session?
I have visited every homeowner but two. And when the first visit, 4 of them was for it, didn't, you know, it wasn't gonna bother them or whatever. They didn't like, the lights wasn't the problem, it was the noise. Then the next time I visit, it had changed a little bit. They kind of had band together
Okay.
not to have it.
Yeah, so do you think we should put it on for the 28th or not?
I'm sorry?
Do you think we should put it on the work session for the 28th or not?
Yes.
Even before we pass the parks plan
Oh, yes.
to establish those priorities? Okay, we have a motion and a second, so I'll ask this body to vote on moving it forward to the 28th work session. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
No.
Okay, so 6-1, it will be on the work session on the 28th. I will not be here on that evening.
I won't be here either, so
Okay.
I'll be out of town.
Well, all right. You said you had 2 other things. Quickly, please.
Yeah, I would like to bring the street wave. You told me last time you needed time, so I wanted an update on that to see what can we do. And Susan, please translate.
It's not necessary. I don't appreciate it. We have met. I can't remember exactly where our status is and what the follow-up should be, because we did not have all the departments participate when we met. But we expected
I think everyone did end up meeting. We had to call a couple.
Oh,
I think everyone ended up showing up.
so is there something that you feel like we need to move forward with, or?
No, I think we're just still kind of waiting on a recommendation. We didn't leave with a clear recommendation from that group.
So can we get a recommendation for the next work session?
I would say by the next work session, might be difficult. I know we have Thanksgiving next week, and a lot of people are going to be out, so that doesn't give us a lot of time. But if you want it on there, we can put it on there, and those that can participate will participate.
I make a motion to bring that to the next work session.
Okay, motion for the next work session.
So are you saying November 28th? November 28th, okay.
Okay, motion for the 28th. Okay, that dies for lack of a second. Okay, what's your third thing?
An update on the code revision,
Update on what, I'm sorry?
on the revision of the city code on the planning side.
Oh,
I heard that for.
they're revising the scope, they're working right now on revising the scope. We've been talking to, and Bill's been talking to him. I think we're close to getting started on it.
Last I saw, I have not seen the contract yet, but I think it should be sent to me soon, hopefully. I think Mr.
Looks good.
McCord has reviewed a contract and made comments back to the company, but they have not sent it to me for review and approval.
It is within the money we have available, which is really good.
So once they send that to me and I can review and approve that, I think the company's ready to take action and begin. Is that correct, Mr. McCord?
Yes, ma'am. The comments on the scope have been conveyed to the consultant, and as soon as they make those changes and submit the contract to us, it will be sent to your office for review.
There were some technical difficulties in the communication. They have everything now, so.
Yeah, it's,
It's all good. It's all good. Thank you.
we got a cost estimate and all that stuff.
Thank you, Mr. McCord. Yeah, we're good.
Thank you, Mayor.
Anyone else with any other business? Okay, now we move to department head reports. Ladies and gentlemen. Seeing no one. You know what's next.
Motion to adjourn.
Bathroom break. All in favor of adjourning, please say aye. Opposed? Everyone have a lovely evening. Be safe tonight. And have a happy Thanksgiving. We have a lot to be thankful for in this community. And I hope that you will remember that as we move forward and celebrate in the coming week.